If you love our crypto content or are looking to learn even more about crypto, be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel after this video dedicated to all things crypto. Find new videos every week. Be sure to check the link in the description.
Eric, welcome to Real Vision.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to have you here today. For people who don't know, particularly people here in the US, BitPanda is a very big deal in Europe. You currently have over 2.5 million customers. Tell us a little bit about BitPanda and what you do.
You want the long version or the short version?
Eric, you are here to
probably
give
the short version is a long version. It's let's say it like this. So Paul, Christian, and I, so we're three co-founders. We were in the industry for quite a while. And even in 2013, we realized how hard it is in Europe to buy crypto. So you had to send money abroad and so on. And most people don't know what a limit order is, what a market order is, and so on. We said, if that needs to get mass adoption, you need to have it as simple as buying things online in a web shop, like in Amazon or something, with a credit card or a bank account or whatever. So the idea originally was building a web shop, make it very easy to buy and sell. That's it. No wallet function, nothing. I realized people need wallets and a proper user experience. So that web shop idea became, there were so many obstacles here, getting bank accounts and so on, but we all know that in 2013, 2014, even 15, 16. But we realized you need to offer much more. And so the shop became a platform. And then the next evolution was, what? Even for us, when we were, let's say, that was quite a while ago. Crypto was probably my first real proper trades, although I'm interested in finance for quite a long time. I'm now 34. I think got really interested in that since I'm 18 or 19, but I couldn't participate in the financial market. I couldn't participate in the stock market or anything because I didn't have the money. Because the financial system is, first of all, pre-internet. Pre-internet means there's no 24/7 trading and so on. There's weekends. Crypto was invented in a time where the internet was already established. And you see, there's suddenly a new financial market that is open 24/7 and globally available. So we said all the learnings we had from crypto, why don't we bring it to other asset classes? So we started with gold and precious metals in general, where you can buy now real physical gold. It's a high security wallet in Switzerland, it's insured. But you can buy a fraction of it. You can buy it for €2, for €1, but you get the same deal as if you would buy for 2 million, because we buy it in so large quantities that you get and we pass the deal through to the retail that you could never buy physical gold for that price, and especially not in small quantities. And we realized, we have to do the same for stocks. But in Europe, that is very, very, very hard. You can't really split a stock in Europe. And everything is very fragmented here. Regulation is not that easy. The stock market in general is highly regulated everywhere around the world. But that is necessary that everybody can participate. So we take all the learnings from cryptocurrencies and bring it to more asset classes. So this is why we brought out now BitPanda stocks, where you can have 24/7 trading and fractional, even for €1, no fixed fees and anything. And our idea here is to build the investment platform for everybody, especially in Europe. That's very interesting, maybe for you guys in the US to know. Way less than 10% of people here own stocks. You don't have 401k, you don't have these things, you don't have these tax incentives and so on. So owning stocks is very unpopular here for several reasons. Mostly, of course, also user experience, bureaucracy. But now we remove all these barriers with proper user experience, from other apps, and with a fractional trading for all asset classes. And that is in I wanted to say that's a short story, but probably that was a long monologue. But that is the story where we come from and where we're going and where we are right now.
Eric, we're here at Real Vision for the long story.
All right. All right.
Talking of which, tell us a little bit about your background. You alluded to some of the your interest in this space when we were just speaking, but tell us a little bit about your background and specifically how you came to find yourself doing what you're doing today.
I mean, when I say I have an unusual background, then most founders probably have an unusual background. That's not very unique anymore. My father was a captain and a ship pilot, and I thought it was a good idea to do the same. So before I wanted my plan after school to study nautics. Yeah, I think that's the right word in English. I said I want to learn everything about it before going on a bridge. I said, I want to learn ship mechanics. So I was a ship mechanic for 2.5 years. I learned it and was traveling the whole world, like over 50 countries in these 2.5 years. That was very challenging, great expertise. But after 2 months, I realized that's not where I want to go, where I see my future at all. I don't want to miss this experience, and I finished it, so 2.5 years, but I wouldn't do it again. But I'm very happy that I made this experience for my own, let's say, development.
What's interesting is that as a background and as a context coming into this, there's no such thing as bluffing. There's no such thing as vaporware on the high seas. Things either work or they don't. So it's an interesting sort of context for you to have coming into what you do today.
Because a ship, like these big container ships, like over 300 meters, they are like its own city. They are like its own autark, like they can run on its own cities. You have to do everything. And these huge ships are just run by 20 people overall. And that is, there's every day something going wrong, like horribly wrong. This is, so you get very stress resistant, There's also a rough language or tone and so on. It can be very challenging. And it's like a little prison. There was no internet at this time, on the ships. There was, you're there. And if your supervisors are cool, then it might be a good trip. If not, and I also had the experience, it was like prison, All right. But, and then afterwards, I had some time to figure out what I wanted. And then you think, you have a lot of time to figure out what you want. So I studied business. It's the most uncreative thing on earth, probably. But I did it on the side because I then started my own little business. And I come originally from the. I say maybe it's a lie. Maybe I lied to myself. I don't know. I say if I would be like 12 years younger or something, my job would be in esports, because when I was good, you can win a computer or something, but nowadays it's a huge industry. So at this time it was like I was in the payment industry and gaming. And then when you're in that industry, you get, all the big trends and so on quite early on. So a lot of my friends were very good and famous online poker professionals. All these together, you somehow, and I can't recall when and how, you get to know about Bitcoin. You got to know about Bitcoin. And it took a while, like first you read it, and then 2 months you haven't heard of it, and then you hear it a second time, maybe a third time, and then you start looking at it and can't tell when and how. And
So what did you first think? And I mean, this obviously is something that you have been very passionate about for a long time. Tell us about the journey into Bitcoin itself.
Yeah, that was the journey. I can't recall how it was. It was like little drops, like falling down. It's not like there was one day and I remember, or one time, and then I was fully into it. It probably took me over a year or 1.5 years to get really into it. It was at the beginning, it was, you probably read a forum post. I think it was like in forums, and you just like, you don't give it any bigger attention, and you see it the second time and so on. And then you suddenly meet people that already had a look into it, and then you can ask questions. And it's mostly this thing when you meet someone you trust and who is smart, and then you start asking questions, and they tell you stuff because you wouldn't even think about diving deeper into it because you don't know how exciting it is. Other people have to tell you how exciting it is. But then the self-education part started. Can't really tell you when and so on and how long it took me, but it wasn't like this one moment. It took me a long time.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about BitPanda. You alluded to some of this earlier, but on BitPanda now, users can buy cryptos, crypto indices, ETFs, individual stocks, cross-currency, and metals. Tell us a little bit about where you are currently and what your roadmap is going forward.
The BitPanda stocks thing is still in a beta. It took us 2 years. Also with licenses, we're going like the fully straight up way in Europe, getting all the licenses in all the countries, preparing everything in advance. We don't try to avoid compliance. So it took us 2 years to build the stocks thing. It's now in beta, so there's just a very limited amount. So we're trying it out because the 24/7 nobody has done this here. But in a few months, you will see the full variety of everything. And then so far, the experiences on our side were quite good. I initially said our plan is to become the investment platform, but not just give people tools and say, have fun. You've never done stocks investing or crypto investing before. Here's a buy button. Here's a sell button. Enjoy. That's not sustainable. And that is a big problem I have personally, because, you can imagine how often I get messages and get called when asked like, what shall I invest in? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know where I invest in, but that's 100% not the right thing for you. And the educational part is the key here. So you can't just, you also have a responsibility. You can't just build a cool app and then have it like a casino for people. You need to have education. You need to bring the basics. People should only put money in things that are simple, that are easy to understand, and that are, made for them. Because there are some things that work for my neighbor, but they might have more money, or they are more, they have more risk appetite. And when I have a swing of maybe 3% downwards with a stock or so, then I might not have a good sleep. If that is the case, then the investment strategy of my neighbor is most probably the absolute wrong thing for myself. And it takes some time. And I always tend to say the bank advisor is misleading, because it's not a bank advisor. It's a salesman. They are not advising you. The advisor is someone you pay an hourly and they give you independent advice. They just have that on their table and they need to sell it this month and they get a commission for it. So that's the opposite. And giving other people or listen to other people what to do with your money is always a mistake. And finding it out yourself and getting into like learning things from, like regards to your finance and the basics, how money work and the capital market works. You don't need to dive into completely, but have a good idea about this. This is something nobody else can do but yourself. And once you have done this, you will find the stuff that you can hold for 10 years or longer. And that's usually very healthy then.
Yeah. It's interesting. Something that you touched on earlier is the sort of absence of a culture of investing in stocks in Europe. Americans have been obsessed with stock investing for decades. Many of my European friends, when I mention stock, they say, "Oh, I don't do that," almost as though it was a culture or a lifestyle, as though you said, "Do you run marathons?" And they said, "Oh, no, I don't run marathons." It's a very interesting kind of cultural divide. You mentioned something that I'm very passionate about, which is education about this space, about financial and investing in general. Tell us a little bit about how you think about that, how your customers see the world, and how you're trying to address those needs.
Yeah, that comes hand in hand with the new platform and the new services we bring out. So we will invest heavily in content and create educational pieces. We have started BitPanda Academy, and we will put a lot of focus and resources on there in the future. So the Academy has been designed to teach people about crypto, and we will make it much bigger. We will it's also like video content and just a small thing. Yet slowly but surely you get an idea of the financial market and things. And most people that what is the English saying, like going down the rabbit hole, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's also with crypto. Once you're like into it and you read about it and you discuss about it with people, you're not leaving.
We were talking a little bit off camera about some of the infrastructure that you guys are building. Tell us about some of the challenges that you have, the things that you're doing to address it, and where you see yourself moving in the future, and why it's important for retail investors to understand some of the back end piece.
We have a different philosophy. I initially said that things took a bit longer for us with everything, because when we enter a market, or in general, we get the licenses ourselves. We build everything ourselves. So our philosophy is to own the infrastructure completely, because then you can have the most advantages. You can build things on top and so on. And to be very flexible. That takes some time initially, but on the long run, it really pays off out. You get my point. And then we said, you know what? BitPanda is already the biggest customer of our own infrastructure, if you would see it as a product. But why don't we offer it for our infrastructure to other banks? Because over the past 12, 15 months, maybe longer, I realized when you talk, especially to traditional players, but also to neobanks and so on, you can have a lot of cool things built in there. You just have to connect somewhere. But if you really want to build blockchain services, wallet services, all the different blockchains, support them, trading, ledger stuff, that is ridiculously to build yourself, and it will take forever. What we have built is a giant ship. I mean, think of like an iceberg, right? You have just like the 20 or 30 or 10% on top. You see, but all the stuff is like a huge thing, and that is our back end and all the services we build around it. So what we are doing now, we announced it last week. We are offering our infrastructure to other banks or fintechs or whoever. And then they can choose what they want. They just have to connect to our API and then say, okay, I want to offer to my customers crypto trading. So it's like a B2B to C, or stocks, fractional, or wallet services. They can choose what they want. Most are starting right now with very easy, like crypto trading and so on, stocks. And then after a few months, because they're connected anyways, they will add more services and so on. And I think that will help the whole industry, because more and more traditional players suddenly will offer crypto and digital assets and stocks, like fractional stocks, to their customers. For them, it's very easy because they have all their services around, and now they are, they can still own the customer and build
Right.
Let's say, offer the new cool stuff that the young generation wants. So yeah.
Yeah. And for those who may not have worked in finance in the past, this idea of owning the customer relationship is something that's very critical to banks and financial institutions because that's generally how their revenue gets generated. And so it's an important thing. So let's talk a little bit about some of those services and why they are so difficult for banks to build on their own. Where are you seeing the most demand? What are the services that banks are most interested in and that they see most critical in terms of their own process flow?
They missed out on crypto as the new, well-established asset class. And I can fully understand why, because it happened very quickly that it got more and more accepted during, or let's say over in society, or let's say in the population. And these building yourself, also the lack of regulation in the first years is something they could do. And now it's they can't do it themselves anymore. And they will always be like so far behind to crypto native companies like us. That's like everybody will agree. And so this is something they cannot do themselves. They want to do it because their customer want it. And this is why we're offering the infrastructure.
Yeah. So I just got back from the Bitcoin 2021 conference in Miami.
How was it?
It was a blast. I mean, it was really interesting. There were a lot of, I think, really interesting takeaways for me. Probably the most important of which was the fact that there were so many traditional financial services people there, and traditional capital market / macro investors, which is something I haven't seen at this scale in the past. And I thought it was an intriguing thing to see, lots of guys in their mid to late 50s walking around in golf shirts with sport coats, in addition to the cool kids, the 20-somethings walking around in t-shirts. So it was interesting. It did sort of have a feel to it where it was very inclusive, very diverse, a lot of different backgrounds, something that we haven't seen, I think, in my view, at least at scale in the crypto space at these conferences in the past. But I'm curious about some of your personal opinions. The civil war inside this space still rages on between the Bitcoiners, sometimes pejoratively called Bitcoin maximalists, and everyone else in the space. And that was, again, a major theme at this event. I'm curious about how you think about that for yourself.
So first of all, I might not be the most popular person after this, but I try to avoid these conferences. Because there are, let's say, I don't know, I'm making things up, like 10% interesting people, or people that are really doing proper stuff, and 90% are self-promoting people that are just there to show how great they are. And in the end, you have no idea what they are doing. And in the end, they don't do anything. It's just like self-promotion stuff, So it's very time-consuming and so on. Although I miss out on the 10%, but I've seen so many conferences, and you know what? I did 2 fundraising and all these things during COVID. Everything remote. Things work remotely, And if I go to a conference or speak there or something, it takes me at least 1 day completely out of work. And I like to work on a product, So this is why I'm very, let's say, picky where to go. I try to not to do it more than once or twice a year.
Yeah, you've also forgotten another key group, which is the people who just show up because it's a great party.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's a valid argument. I mean, so that's totally fine for me.
I think so too. I completely agree.
Regarding the Civil War, honestly, I don't care. I never cared because there are different cryptocurrencies. I personally think many of them they will always come more. They will vanish. There will be a handful, maybe 10, or I don't know, that establish themselves on the really long run, not because they are clones of each other. That doesn't, they will vanish anyways, but because they are completely different and they solve different problems, and they will coexist, and that is absolutely fine. I honestly don't care. When you look at the sheer amount of coins that are out there, 99% you can throw away anyways. It doesn't really matter. It's I personally don't look at it. But every investment I personally do, I do it in the long run. So I hold everything several years at least.
Yeah. And
then it doesn't really matter. And then you have to decide what is good, what is not. I mean, for that purpose, we have built something very unique, the BitPanda Crypto Index, where you can just say, and this is also something I use because I cannot follow all the crypto myself. It's impossible. It's knowing at any time what is happening and the coin with the 15th market cap right now. This is a full-time job. So what we did was it's an index together with VanEck. It's one of the biggest ETF provider, and then you say the top 5, top 10, or top 25, 3 different indexes. There you can just put the money in, and then there is a certain strategy, and once a month you get rebalanced. So you can invest on the crypto altcoin market, on the long run. But for me, it's I do this partially, and then I have like 2 or 3 coins I hold on the long run, and the rest, honestly, this would be a full-time job if I see what's in and what's out and what's cool and what's not. But yeah.
Okay, now I'm very curious about what those coins are that you hold and why.
I mean, I like both, like I like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they're like, I don't get this stuff, there's not like this for me, not like this thing. It can only be one thing. It's like, they are completely different for me. They solve different stuff. So I don't even think about this question, I don't compare them. I can't compare them.
Well, how do you think about those use cases? I'm curious about Bitcoin in particular, how you think about the use cases. Is it for you a macro asset, a digital gold asset, something that you see developing payment rails in the future, a pristine form of collateral? What's your conceptualization of Bitcoin, and why is it important to you?
I think it is absolutely superior to any other store of value, especially compared to gold. Of course, it's like a very cheap and most often used comparison with gold, but it has all the scarcity elements and attributes. But on the other hand, it is instantly liquid. Yeah, you can liquidate it anywhere around the world. You can send it around like an email. You can pay with it, and this is like, honestly, it's like, why would anybody in our age invest into gold? Like nowadays, I don't get it, honestly. But why am I saying this even? We're offering gold. Just cut it out.
Not only that, but Eric, this is a heresy in Austria. We've had on a number of folks from Austria and in the German-speaking world in general, where the attachment to precious metals as a store of value is something that's very much part of the culture. The idea of the need, almost at a spiritual level, for a hard currency.
Yeah, it's especially in the German-speaking markets, gold it's still a big thing. Yeah, it's fine. I'm just saying, if you once go into Bitcoin and you really, really think about it and try it out, and I don't think many people will say that they will still prefer gold.
Well, it's very interesting because, talking about this broader cultural context in the German-speaking world, this idea of Bitcoin really being a kind of gold 2.0, something that has, favorable characteristics and attributes. For example, greater liquidity, the ability to transfer it very easily. Obviously, these are things that are challenges with physical gold. So it's very interesting to hear you exploring and touching on those issues.
I honestly think that more traditional players, institutional money, companies put it on the balance sheet, and even national banks will do so, put it on the balance sheet.
You think central banks might eventually, in Europe in particular, put gold on the balance sheet directly as a reserve asset?
Gold. You're probably one of the latest ones to do it, but yeah. Didn't I just read yesterday or something with El Salvador? So slowly but surely. But I honestly think that this is one of the best store of values, and more traditional players. Let's say the more established, the better regulation, the higher the market cap, the more like traditional players, banks, investment banks, trading desks like Goldman Sachs and so on, is there, the sooner we will see exactly this kind of adoption. I mean, when you look at Bulgaria, for example, I think they have, from very, very, very early on, they have seized a lot of Bitcoin, and they, as far as I know, haven't sold it yet. So they have a lot of money there.
That would be the biggest story of the decade. For those who aren't familiar, the European system of central banks has national central banks throughout Europe, and the OENB, which is the Austrian central bank, and the Bundesbank in Germany. If either of those two institutions were to take Bitcoin on their balance sheet, it would be the story of the decade.
Yeah, I think that will happen, but it will take a long time until you will see more countries and you will see other central banks, national banks, doing this in other countries, in other continents first.
Yeah. And so to shift gears to something a little bit different, you mentioned Ethereum before. Tell us about your view of Ethereum, what its use cases are for you, and why you find that so compelling.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest expert, but I really think that the whole idea of it's more than programmable money. It's like, with contracts and the token system. Plus, I also like the idea a lot of proof of stake. That can have, the whole discussion we had in the past weeks about Bitcoin for the 100 millions of time, about the energy thing, and then taking things out of a headline, and now everybody becomes an expert about this. I'm fed up with this. I've seen this every year at least twice, and it happens again even in 2021. And but so the problem there is many things are just not correct, and they are taken out of proportion. But politics and movements are very, very often just made of, not about facts, but let's say about opinions. And so I think these let's say movement of cryptos, the bad energy consumer, will guide us for quite a while, I think. And therefore, it could be a huge rise for Ethereum in the adoption for other players, for big banks and so on, that say, okay, we want the clean stuff. Although Bitcoin is not dirty in my opinion, but yeah, that's a different topic.
I'm curious specifically on Ethereum, what you see as the use cases that you find so compelling.
Yeah, what I mean is I like the token system in general. I like that you can use Ethereum as a system to tokenize or to digitize a thing of the real world.
Right.
Let it then later on be real estate, for example. And I think this will happen on the Ethereum blockchain. And also smart contracts in that regard, that notaries, I think you don't need this kind of stuff anymore. You don't need these trusts then when you have programmable money that have specific rules, and therefore I think Ethereum is superior.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think it was 3 or 4 tokens that you found interesting. In some ways, Bitcoin.
No, I said 2 or 3.
2 or 3. Okay, you got me. What's the third?
The third is very easy. The third is an ERC20 token. It's called BEST, and that is called BitPanda Ecosystem Token.
Tell us about that.
That's our token from BitPanda. So
tell us about.
Yeah, it's a system, because I believe in BitPanda, obviously. So therefore, when you use our platform and you hold that, you will have several advantages. You have much less fees. It has a burning mechanism. So things that you're already seeing quite a lot in the industry anyway. And we are reworking it, and we are giving more, it has been implemented with a very small market cap. We did an IEO 2019 for 43 million euros. And now The price is more than 10 times higher, like way more. So yeah, and we have to design the different VIP levels and the different stages, the benefits. But in general, our idea is whenever we build something for a platform, a new product, it has to work well with the best. So with the ecosystem token.
So let's talk a little bit about that ecosystem and what it allows users to do today. I know there's a loyalty program, there are discounts on trading. Talk a little bit about how that functions in the ecosystem right now and where you see it going in the next 1 to 3 years.
Yeah, I can't really, because that is currently the main function, but we're already working on new stuff. And I don't want to spoil, what's happened, right? When you're in crypto, especially on fintech, and you already talk about stuff, then from the next day you realize, the day you release this, I get messages every day like, when is it coming? Why is it not online yet? So no, I won't do that.
So tell us a little bit about how users are using it in the ecosystem today and why you think it's so significant.
Mostly right now, because they use it for trades. So you can just automatically use it to when you trade, or we have our Visa card, and our Visa card is quite cool because it's the first Visa card where you can add or link any wallet there is, and you can now pay your beer at a club on a Saturday night, where everything is closed, and you can pay automatically with Bitcoin, with Euro, with dollar, with Tesla stocks, with gold. It doesn't matter. And there you always can use Bast for the and for the fees and so on. So that's currently the biggest use case. But you have voting rights, what other coins to add. But there will be much more features, but I honestly cannot tell you right now. This is like, I would shoot myself in the knee if I do this now.
Well, we'll have you back after those features gone live to talk a little bit more about what they are. I'm curious, as we get closer to the end of this conversation, tell us what you're going to be thinking about as we look forward. What are you going to look for in the rest of the ecosystem, and what are your plans going forward?
Yeah. So regarding the ecosystem, I'd like to mention one more thing that I forgot to talk about that might be very interesting for you, and that is Pantos. That was something we launched a year earlier before Best. It was 2018, and that is a system we're building together with the Technical University of Vienna, where we are working on a system that is a decentralized system that combines all the blockchains. Because I was talking before about how excited I am to tokenize the world and tokenize everything and so on. But now you have to decide where you want to do this. You want to do this on I don't know, Waves. You want to do this on IOTA then later, or you want to do this maybe on Ethereum. But then your project is there, and there is no interoperability. So we are working with this to have a decentralized interoperability where you combine all the different blockchains, and then you can transfer your tokens, your assets between the blockchains without middlemen. And this is something we do with the university. We have the state, like the Ministry of Economy. They also gave us, how do you say, like, I don't know what the English word is when you get like money for this, like in bounties. No, not bounties, like incentives.
Yeah, research grants.
Yeah. And that is something we're working on for 3 years now. And that is really, really cool progress. It's not like the flashiest and coolest and marketing and hype, but it makes constant progress. You have all these research papers, scientifically papers that get published all the time. And this is something we are in for the long run to help our ecosystem and to help tokenizing the world.
Interoperability between blockchains is such an incredibly important topic, something that we've been hearing more about, particularly in the last 12 months or so. Tell us a little bit about what you think the promise of interoperability is and why it matters to end users.
So for me, it's very straight up answer. It's like your projects shouldn't be stuck, especially in a younger industry where you cannot be for sure what's happening on the different blockchains and how good is the team and going forward. Not all blockchains have a proper team working on it constantly around the world, like the blockchain developers, for example. The Bitcoin developers, for example. And then, of course, you can use different features on different blockchains. So some blockchains might have features, ideas, services that you would like to use for your token, for your asset, that you cannot use on another blockchain. So therefore, it's very important to get synergies and use everything, wherever you want it and what is good for your project. So I think that is the way forward. So yeah, there shouldn't be a big, what I said initially when you asked me about like maximalism and so on. There shouldn't be like a fight. Who is the dominant player? I think like there are several good projects, and let's take out the best of everything.
Yeah, very well said. You were also talking a little bit about some of your personal plans and some of the things that you're interested in going forward.
My personal plans, I'm very bored in that regard. I love what I do a lot. I I don't really want to take holidays. I kind of miss work then. So for me, this is my project. This is kind of my life. So I love what I do, and I have a lot more to do to build a world of finance for everybody. Sounds a bit cheesy now, sounds a bit generic, but that's the truth. And I have a long route to go with BitPanda. I don't have the urge of, like doing an exit at all. We're now here for 7 years. We're profitable for over 4.5 years. Everything is running well. And we have such a big roadmap. We're now over 500 people now here. And by the end of the year, we plan with over 800 team members. So the plans are for the future. Like we plan for a longer future, I would say.
Yeah, that's extraordinary growth, and it must be challenging to find those great people to fill those roles. I know at Real Vision we're at about 100, and it's challenging to find the right people to move forward. There's just such a demand for talent in this space right now.
I can tell you what helped. It helped a lot when we had the first proper investments announced. So, for example, the unicorn status. In Europe, this is quite also a rare thing that helps a lot because it shows that, so first of all, we're one of the few fintechs that actually earn money and not burn money. And you can say whatever you want, like growth, but people like to have a company that earns money and have sustainable growth than having, kind of bought growth, I call it. And therefore, right now, we have a much, 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 much better time hiring great talent than we did before. Honestly, that gave a lot of reputation, that gave a lot of trust, and people are excited to join this journey. Yeah.
Eric, as we come to the conclusion here, what final thoughts would you like to leave our viewers with?
Is that a question you always ask someone, and then because I hear a lot of podcasts and so on, and then people get asked at the end, like, imagine this and that. How would you react? Is that a question you always ask, or?
Yes, it is. Very often, because we do these conversations that are,
all right,
an hour long, and by the end of them, it's very often that people realize, oh gosh, there was that thing that I said 10 minutes ago into the interview that I really want to highlight, because that's really what I think the important is. And we went off on this fantastic conversation, but to give someone the key takeaways that they really can use is often very helpful.
The key takeaway is easy. Don't trust anybody with your money except yourself, and take the time, educate yourself, and invest into simple things you understand, and you have a good sleep. Doesn't matter what happens, and develop on your own a long-term strategy. And it doesn't matter what asset class it is. Nobody should tell you that except yourself. Try things out with little money and then have a good strategy over the next 10 years with the rest of your money.
Extremely well said. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was fun.
Thanks for watching, everyone.